Now it's time for the Senior Rotax Final. Here is your starting grid. On pole position, it will be Mark Kimber from the UK. He'll have teammate from Strawberry Racing representing Belgium alongside him on the front row, Kai Rilets. Sean Butcher and Kai Hunter will be on row number 2. Lachlan Robinson and Nolan Lemaire will be on row 3. Paul Fulquemin and Ethan Jeff Hall, row 4, with Zombor Kovac and Devian Horst rounding out the top 10. Miska Kaskinen, Matthew Higgins, Vic Stevens, Austin Lee, Jules Roussel, Jaden Teen, Lewis Gilbert, Tommy van der Soys, Lauren Ligo, and Camille McFarlane round out the top 20. Daniel Halsworth, Mathis Kanejak, Dion van Verven, Sverre Ubben, Gustavs Usakovs, Lotus Sveen, Montego Masson, Arthur Robin, Paul Crisel, and Magic Himera round out the top 30, completing the 36-strong grid. Lilian Richard, Alexander Sarvinkov, Janis Diak, William Christensen, Tobias Clausen, and Zach Scowler. So, as in the pre-final earlier on, it'll be 14 minutes plus an additional lap. With 3 drivers in the previous race actually penalised with a front fairing 5-second penalty, one of which was Austin Lee. Arthur Robin and also Janis Diak received found that their front fairings were not in the correct position. But Mark Kimber at the moment is the one that has been on form. He won 3 heats yesterday. He won the pre-final earlier on today. Yeah, temperature has reached 26 degrees Celsius. The sun is high up above and beating its very significant warmth down onto the tarmac and onto everyone underneath it. So, are we ready? Are we steady? The revs rise. Lights are out first time in the Senior Rotax Final. And everyone makes the run down to Clubhouse. Rilets trying to keep it round the outside of Kimber, going through into the next left-hander. Is he going to make it through? Not quite. Hunter's up the inside of Butcher, through into turn number 3 to take 3rd place. Robinson side by side with more than likely Nolan Lemaire. And Lemaire's got through on the number 326 for 5th position. As they're 2-3 abreast coming down the back stretch. Hard on the brakes, turn it right, rotate the cart, steer it in. Some people still side by side, some nearly edging onto the grass on the outside of turn number 6. And someone does actually hit 2 wheels onto it. Jockeying for position through into turn 8, into the Piff Paff chicane. Down into the final corner, and Kimber leads. But now Kai Hunter tried to go towards the outside of Kai Rilets, heading into Clubhouse. Sean Butcher is waiting in the wings to see if anything transpires in front of him between the two, right directly in his crosshairs. So Kai Hunter was briefly ahead of Kai Rilets by 8/100ths of a second, as that was Miska Kaskinen. Having someone up the inside of him, could have more than likely been Devian Horst in the 3:45. So a lot of fast, frantic action in the first minute and a half of this 14-minute, plus an additional lap final here at Circuit du Val d'Argenton. But Mark Kimber trying to stretch an early lead. His lead now is nearly 7/10ths of a second. And he's just put in a 52.886-second lap time. Hunter, Rilets and Butcher battling away. Robinson has dropped a couple of positions at the very least. That's all. There's a bit of a touch between the two in front of him. Robinson has got, that was Zombor Kovac up his inside. Or was that Lewis Gilbert? Looks like it was Lewis Gilbert that got through. As there's a scrap happening, a few carts in front between the 905 and Nolan Lemaire, who's just got through on Ethan Jeff Hall. So Jeff Hall down a position. demoting him down into 6th place. As once again, another flat-out lap around this 1,280-metre circuit. Mark Kimber again with another fastest lap of the race, 52.677. As running wide through Clubhouse, that was Nolan Emery, and Ethan Jeff Hall took the perfect opportunity to swing it up the inside and get through on the 9.05 from France. So Emery demoted back down to 6th place. Devian Host is in 7th. Jules Roussel, Lewis Gilbert and Tommy van der Stroys round out the top 10. So Paul Forquemin, Miska Kaskinen, Matthew Higgins, Jaden Teen and Vic Stevens ran out the top 15. Lachlan Robinson's dropped down to 17th position. It's been a lot of jockeying for position around multiple points at this fast-flowing, technical, momentum-carrying circuit. But Kimber has only stretched a marginal lead now as Kai Hunter has got through on Rilitz for 2nd place. Rilitz in 3rd. Butcher is about 0.34 behind and is not lapping faster than him, but Tommy van der Stroys, youngster from The Hague in the Netherlands, in the 3.11 has just put in the fastest lap of the race, a 52.301. And now he's closing in on the 3.29 of Lewis Gilbert for 9th place. Through into turn 8, now into the Piff Paff chicane. On the run up towards Dunlop, the right-hander. And then the drivers put the pedal to the metal. They accelerate at full speed through the sweeping right-hander once again. And what's more interesting, Kai Hunter's pace is now starting to be a little bit quicker than Mark Kimber. The gap now just over 6.5 tenths between 1st and 2nd position. Meanwhile, the battle for P3 continues onward between Kai Rilitz and Sean Butcher. Paul Grisel has dropped to the back end of the field in 36th place. Austin Lee has got past Jaden Teen for 14th. Just under 9 minutes to go, plus an additional lap. And way behind the top 8, there is a lot of squabbling happening around about towards the bottom part of the top 15. Meantime, Devian Horst manages to find a way through on Nolan Emery. That was a great move from the young Dutchman. Through into Clubhouse, and he got through on the 9.05, who now has Jules Roussel for close company. That's 6th, 7th and 8th position as they hurtle their way at breakneck speed down the back straight, heading into the double right at turns 5 and 6. And Van der Stroys, in the meantime, has got past Lewis Gilbert. And now we'll see the 3 in front. Van der Stroys now 9th and climbing forward up the grid. Lap 7 completed. And once again, Hunter has done a personal best, but Kai Rilitz has just put in the fastest lap of the race with a 52.280. But we have had a 5-second time penalty being given. Looked to be the 9.09 of Magic Chimera, I believe. There's 7.5 minutes still to go. The top 4 were covered by just under 1.2 seconds. Ethan Jeff Hall might have a little bit of pace to spare and to try and close in on them. Meantime, there has been a change for position as Austin Lee has got past Jaden Teen. They've got Zombor Kovac right with them, along with Gustav Zusakovs and also Camille McFarlane. As we have got yellow flags at turn number 11 at Dunlop, there is a cart off and into the gravel. And that was... Now, I was trying to catch the number. That was Jules Roussel. Jules Roussel is beached in the gravel and is out. And a little bit further down the back, towards the back end of the field, well, a little bit further down the field, Gustav Zusakov's battling away with Laurent Legault. as Jaden Thien gets passed by Camille McFarlane. Has got Uzakov's not too far behind in the 359, who tries to look towards the inside of turn number 7. Behind him, there's the 323 of Laurent Ligor. Then the 907. That's Mathis Carnejac. Janis Diak has been making steady progress in this race as well. The 339 from Germany with Kraft Motorsport now is currently up into 23rd and is climbing. Meantime, Miska Kaskinen and Lachlan Robinson are now battling over 11th position as they make their way out of Clubhouse into turn number 3. More squabbles going on. Usakov's up the inside of Ligor. Now the 907 gets through. Mathis Carnejac. Janis Diak has the door firmly closed in his direction. We've got another 5-second time penalty that is going to go to Jules Roussel, but with his cart beached in the gravel and now pulled to the side out of harm's way, that will not make his race be any worse than it is. Ligor in the meantime, keeping ahead of Mathis Carnejac. The train is actually starting to build up behind the Canadian, as we have just over 5 minutes to go. Robinson again trying to put an offensive against Miska Kaskinen from Finland. And that is for 11th position. Matthew Higgins rounds out the top 10 in the 375. As a little bit of a tussle. Little bit of a tussle going through into turn number 3. That was involving one of the KR Sport carts. Didn't quite pick out the number. I think the cart behind is Montego Masson, so that would suggest to me it's Magic Chimera in the 909. So Zach Scowler, unfortunately, out after 7 laps. Jules Roussel out after lap number 8, having been beached in the gravel. 4 minutes 20 still to go, plus an additional lap. No change in the top 10. But a change in 11th because Lachlan Robinson has now gotten past Miska Kaskinen and will try and see if he can move up a little bit further up the field. However, our race leader, Mark Kimber, has just put in a new fastest lap of the race, extended his gap over Kai Hunter to just north of 7/10 of a second. 52.173 seconds by the number 302 from Strawberry Racing. Montego Masson gets past Magic Chimera for 28th. Janis Diak now past Mathis Carnejac for 22nd. A lot of close quarter action in this race, but the top 4 are covered by just under 1.4 seconds. Sean Butcher, in the meantime, has taken over 1/10 of a second out of Kai Hillitz, has got the gap down to just over 3/10 between the two that were battling tooth and nail over the European Championship last year. So just been informed by live timing that the 308 of Jules Roussel and the 909 of Magic Chimera both receive a time penalty of 5 seconds for causing an avoidable collision. Two minutes 40 still to go, plus an additional lap. Kimber still trying to extend that lead. And Kai Hillitz has just put in the fastest lap of the race. Now it's his turn to hold that in his hand. 52.086. Top 3 covered by not much. As a little bit further back, Lewis Gilbert battling away with Tommy van der Soys. This is for 7th on the road. Just in front of them from the Netherlands is the 345 of Devian Horst, teammate to Tommy van der Soys at Bouvin Power. But what's going to happen in the next 2 minutes plus an additional lap? Kimber has not really scarpered away into the distance, but he has controlled proceedings, which is when you have that opportunity of being on pole position, you're the one that dictates what's happening behind you. Kimber now re-secures the fastest lap of the race, 52.032. And extends his gap over Kai Hunter to just north of 6/10 of a second. Hillitz is in third, 1.1 seconds behind the race leader. Sean Butcher nearly a further 0.3 back in fourth. Fifth, it's Ethan Jeff Hall, who's running the race on his own. Plenty of clear air in front and behind. The 397, based out of Lancaster. Lewis Gilbert, in the meantime, has managed to get through on Tommy van der Stoys and has left him for dead. Left him in his dust. So the leader makes his way through into Clubhouse and out of Clubhouse, now into the left-hander here at turn 3. About 37 seconds on the clock remaining, plus an additional lap. Moves have been made. Uzakovs has lost out 20th position to Legor. Austin Lee past Dion van Verven for 14th. Montego Masson past Alexander Savinkov. And that is a change for 27th on the road. But we're coming down to the final few seconds of this race. It's going to be close. Kim is out of the final corner. So it was at a whisker. But there's this and one more lap to go. Kimber has been pulling away, ever so slightly, fractionally doing so. The Butcher has been trying to close on in and pass Kai Hillitz for third place in this final. But now it's going to be the final lap of the senior Rotax final. 1 lap to go. Kimber's lead now stretches to just over 7/10, and he puts in the fastest lap of the race, 52.002 seconds. Kai Hunter holding on in second position. As soon as he got into that place, he has not relinquished it. Hillitz holding station in third ahead of Sean Butcher. Leaders making their way through into turn number 7 for the final time here on lap number 18. We've had one driver do a clean sweep this weekend. We are just one more corner away for it to happen again, as Mark Kimber solidifies his push in the title fight here in France. He wins by 6.39 seconds, 0.639 seconds, and celebrates after crossing the finish straight, the finish line, with 2 hands off the wheel. No one, I repeat, no one can beat Mark Kimber when he's on his A game. He wins by 0.639 seconds ahead of Kai Hunter. Kai Hillitz rounds out the top 3. A great result for what has been his debut with Strawberry Racing in the 374. Sean Butcher takes 4th ahead of Ethan Jeff Hall. Devian Horst, Lewis Gilbert takes 7th, so the Pride of Scotland made some headway in the latter stages of the race. Tommy van der Stoys, Paul Forquemin and Matthew Higgins ran out the top 10. Lachlan Robertson rounds out the weekend with the top 11 finish ahead of Vic Stevens, Nolan Lemeray, Dion van Verven, Austin Lee, Miska Kaskinen, Zombor Kovac, Camille McFarlane, Jaden Teen and Janis Diak running out the top 20. Gustav Zusakovs, Mathis Kanejak, Arthur Robin, Lotus Tveen and Laurent Legault round out the top 25. Sverre Ubben, Montego Masson, Alexander Savinkov, William Christensen, Paul Grissel, Lilian Richard, Tobias Clausen, Daniel Halsworth and Magic Himera rounding out the 34 that finished the race, with Jules Roussel out after beaching it in the gravel on Dunlop on lap 7 and Zach Scowler retiring on lap 6.